question right off the top I want to ask you. You just mentioned that you just saw Vladimir Putin last night and you exchanged greetings.
I did.
Why not use that opportunity? I believe this is the first time that you've met Vladimir Putin since the 2016 election to express condemnation of Russia's meddling in U.S. elections.
Well, we really didn't have the opportunity. He was literally across a broad table. Look, we've been very clear about this administration's commitment to ensure that whether it be Russia or other countries, that there's no tolerance for meddling in our elections. And we took decisive action over the last 2 years to protect the integrity of our elections. And I know the President's also made that very clear in his meetings with President Putin in the past.
President Trump met 5 months ago with Kim Jong-un here in Singapore, yet there is still evidence that North Korea continues to develop its ballistic missile sites. What do you guys need in order, in terms of verifiable evidence from them? Is this a violation of the agreement that was made back in June?
Well, first let's begin and acknowledge, Vaughn, that we've made tremendous progress from the early days of this administration with North Korea. I mean, it was when we came into office, North Korea was testing nuclear weapons. They were firing missiles over Japan. They were making threatening statements toward the people of the United States of America, and those days are over. No more missile tests, no more nuclear tests.
But they're still developing their sites.
Our hostages come home. We've begun to see the remains of American soldiers return home again. But look, here in Singapore 6 months ago, the President and Chairman Kim sat down and reached an agreement to achieve denuclearization. But the reason why the President kept the sanctions in place is because until we have a plan and that plan is implemented to achieve complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization, we're going to keep the pressure on. I mean, the mistakes of the past can easily be described as one administration after another in both political parties with regard to North Korea, where promises were made for denuclearization, relief was given to North Korea, then promises were broken.
But to hold this next summit, does the United States, does this administration need to get a complete list from the North Koreans of their weapons and their facilities to hold this next summit?
I think it will be absolutely imperative in this next summit that we come away with a plan for identifying all of the weapons in question, identifying all the development sites, allowing for inspections of those sites, and a plan for dismantling nuclear weapons. Look, the goal here is the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And what I heard today from President Moon, what I heard day before yesterday in Japan, Prime Minister Abe, and frankly what I've heard from leaders of nations all across this region, is that really the world is united behind that commitment. We're going to keep the pressure on. We're going to keep the sanctions in place. But President Trump continues to be very hopeful that in that next summit we'll come out with a plan for actually implementing and achieving denuclearization.
He said that he had fallen in love with Kim Jong-un, yet there's still plenty of reasons to be skeptical of where North Korea is in these negotiations. If I may, have you fallen in love with Kim Jong-un?
Well, what the President has said is that there's a good relationship there. And look, President Trump made his feelings about North Korea known before the world, even before the United Nations, if you'll recall. And he spoke in language that Kim Jong-un understood clearly. That the days of threats against the United States, the days of developing ballistic missiles with nuclear weapons that would threaten our people and threaten our allies in the region were over. And that all set the table, as President Moon said again today, that all set the table for the progress that we have made. But everything begins with relationship, and now we need to see results. And the next summit between President Trump and Chairman Kim will be focused on coming out with a plan, a verifiable plan that can achieve the complete denuclearization of North Korea and ultimately set us on a pathway toward a peaceful and prosperous future for all the people that live on that continent.
I want to ask you about, we're here at this summit here. Usually the President of the United States attends these summits here.
He does.
But China is a focal point of the conversation here. How long can the U.S. how long is the administration willing to engage in the standoff with China?
Well, look, the difficulties that we're facing with China have been well articulated by this administration. the President and myself have laid those out. I mean, fully half of our international trade deficit is with China.
What are those measurable steps that they need to take?
Well, look, we made it very clear that China has to open up their markets. They have to end the violation of and theft of intellectual property. They have to end this process of what's called forced technology transfer. Essentially, literally join the family of nations in respecting, international rules that govern free markets and free enterprise.
How long is the administration willing to take this fight? Does this go towards the end of the first Trump administration?
Well,
where does this go? Because there's a concern that could this potentially become the next Cold War?
Well, what the President has made clear is that he believes we're in a very strong position, that we've imposed $250 billion in tariffs already. The President's made it clear we could more than double that against China. But look, we remain very hopeful on this issue, on freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, on the whole issue of China's influence efforts in countries around this region and our own country, that the upcoming meeting in Argentina is a great opportunity. President Trump has developed a strong personal relationship with President Xi. They've forged the kind of foundation in a relationship President Trump believes at least creates the opportunity for making progress on these issues. But we really do believe that the days of allowing massive trade deficits, the days of seeing the kind of behavior in the South China Sea and other actions and tolerating that are really over.
Just 10 days ago, I was with a soybean farmer up in northwestern Iowa, Laverne Arndt, third generation. He didn't even break even this year. What would be your message to people like Laverne as they're watching this unfold?
Well, what I would say is that looking at this president, they know they have a president who's going to be fighting for American workers and American farmers in all of our trade agreements. Look, for too long, we've had trade agreements that have benefited more our trading partners than they've benefited America. We renegotiated with South Korea a new trade agreement. We recently completed the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement that puts American workers and American farmers first. And I think the support that I've heard around the country, Vaughn, is that in the city and on the farm, people understand we can't put up with $350, $400 billion trade deficits with China, with half of our international trade deficit going to one country for long. That we have to take a firm stand. The President's taken that firm stand and say that it's time for China to open up their markets, not be treated as a developing nation, but really step forward and begin to allow the American economy and the American people to fully participate in their prosperity and ours.
I want to ask you a couple questions about here back in the United States at home. The Deputy National Security Advisor exited the White House here after this week a very public riff with the First Lady. The American public has seen a lot of turnover in this administration. Why should the American public be confident in the stability of this administration?
Well, I think, look, every administration has turnover.
But this was the Deputy National Security Advisor. Attorney General Jeff Sessions left just last week.
There's always a lot of turnover administration. I think what the American people see in President Trump is a leader who's not so much focused on the people that are working at the White House. He's focused on making sure the people are working all across this country. And look at millions of jobs created. Look at people's 401ks have grown. You see an American economy that's expanding. You see new trade deals. And I think the American people, and the reason why we made history by expanding our majority in the Senate, we won some great elections in the governor's offices around the country, and we didn't really see that blue wave in the House of Representatives come our way.
Should the American public?
I think it's because the American people see the results, Vaughn, and I think they see an economy that's growing and expanding in ways that it hasn't literally for decades. And America's standing tall in the world again. We're rebuilding our military. We see men and women appointed to our courts at every level that stand on the Constitution. Those are the results that I think have the American people so enthusiastic about this president's leadership.
I want to ask you, with Jeff Sessions' exit last week, why was Matt Whitaker named the acting attorney general over the department's number 2, Rod Rosenstein? And why should the American public not be concerned that Whitaker, somebody who has called the investigation a witch hunt, Why should the American public not be concerned that Whitaker was put into this position ultimately to end this special counsel's investigation?
Well, I think Mark Whitaker has a background both as a U.S. attorney and as chief of staff at the Justice Department that fully qualifies him to be our acting attorney general, and the president thought he was simply the best choice to do that.
Should the American public not be concerned about the special counsel's investigation?
The American people can be very confident that the right steps will be taken. Look, this administration has fully cooperated with the special counsel. We've literally provided over 1 million documents to the special counsel, and I think the American people can be confident that we'll continue to cooperate, but they can also be confident we're going to continue to focus on the issues that matter most to them, and that is standing up for America's interests around the world, fighting for American jobs and winning with trade deals around the world, continuing to roll back red tape, cut taxes, and advance the kind of policies that have America growing again.
Last question for you. Have you encouraged the President of the United States to not sow discord and a lack of trust in the American electoral system in the likes of Florida, in the likes of Arizona?
Well, look, I think the President's been very clear, as others have, about concerns that we have with efforts going on in Broward County. I know that former Governor Jeb Bush also expressed those same concerns.
Do you share the same concerns with the President? He suggested in an interview with the Daily Caller this morning that individuals are going in disguise to go and vote twice. He called it there electoral corruption in Arizona and suggested that there should be a revote, even though Martha McSally bowed out of this race.
Well, the integrity of the vote is the foundation of our democracy. And the President and our administration are going to continue to support efforts to make sure that everyone's vote is counted and counted accurately and fairly, and that the citizens of this country, that we the people, continue to govern in America. And I think you'll continue to see the President speaking out on those issues in the days ahead. But I have to tell you once again, we were very encouraged by the results. We thought Tuesday's midterm elections were a great win for our side, making history in the Senate, electing some great governors around the country. And I really do believe that we're going to continue to be able to build on the progress and the momentum in this country. And as you saw the President do today, we're going to look for ways to work in a bipartisan way with Democrats and Republicans to advance the interests of the American people.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Vaughn. Good to have you along.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.